Welcome to the MadHouse podcast, a safe place where we discuss the things that have been on our mind. So sit back, relax, as we dive deep down into the rabbit hole to see how far it goes.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the MadHouse podcast. We're so glad to be back with you guys. I know it's been a crazy, last little 2 weeks or whatever. So I'll go ahead and start off by making the public service announcement. I apologize for not making the episode last week. I was in the process of moving from apartment to apartment, and it was it was a female dog and a half. It was seriously this move was more stressful than any other move, and I was supposed to be using movers, so it's supposed to be less stressful, but just moving was stressful. But I'm done. I'm completed. Everything is cool now. I was ready to get back in the lab and talk to my bro about a lot of stuff.
Same. Like I said, it's been crazy. I've been doing a lot of reflection. So you'll see a lot of how my week's been going next week. So we had a little good discussion. So it's been a good week, but the outcome of that will be next week. So I think that'll be something good. We already kind of got that topic in line, but it's been a good time. But I think that we have a lot to discuss on that next week. But it's today. Birdman hand rub. Self-destruction. Hakai.
What? What is that?
You're the Dragon Ball Z, Lord Beerus.
He watches too much anime now.
God of Destruction.
He's on some other stuff right now. It's Hakai.
Hakai is the Japanese word for destruction.
Harry Carey.
Destroy.
I have disgraced my family.
So I think we got some interesting viewpoints on this. So where you coming at from self-destruction?
So as you know, I do struggle with some depression, got a little anxiety and things like that. So I tend to indulge in self-destructive behaviors probably more often than I should. And I can admit that now because I have a better understanding and I'm a lot more aware of when I'm doing these things. Personally, there are times where there are things that I shouldn't be doing that I know I shouldn't be doing, and I do them as an escape, and I do them to take that feeling away, to make me feel a certain way. And I'm not trying to say that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that in those moments I do those things to sometimes avoid having to deal with problems, and then at other times I do them strictly based off the pleasure principle because I want to do what I want to do at that moment in time. Understanding the ramifications of that, I'm still going to do it,
Yeah. I think we all have these issues, some more than others, and I think at different points in our lives. Me, myself, I think getting into it, I want to say my most ridiculous destructive behavior that I think I have is crazy because I've been trying to fight it, but I think it's going internal. And for y'all who don't know, it's like we say in the military, in the Marine Corps, like going internal is when you shut everything off, really, and you just fall into yourself. And I think this is it's a very destructive behavior for me because when I go internal, it leads me to do things like smoking, which I know is it's bad for my health, but it leads me down to smoking because when I'm going internal, I'm putting everything into myself, and now I have to kind of relieve that stress. I'm putting all this heavy stress and strain on myself, and now I'm smoking, and then that also leads to self-doubt, and it also that also leads to bad sleep, which now I can't. I'm panicking inside, so now I can't sleep. So now my body is not having trouble. It's having trouble processing. So there's a lot of things when I think of a self-destructive behavior, I know we have stuff like smoking and stuff like that, but I think at the core of it, it's just that when I go internal and I'm not processing things correctly, and I'm saying whatever, forget the world. I'm gonna avoid it. That I think is the real destructive behavior, and I think it's kind of like a gateway drug.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how alcohol is kind of like a
Yeah.
gateway to other things. I think that self that self that when you going in, when I'm going into myself and I'm forgetting about everything else around me, then it starts to trickle down into other things.
Yeah.
So I think for me that's my biggest issue is that, and it's just that is self destruction because now I'm doing other things to avoid dealing with whatever my issues are. And a lot of times, like, I don't know what the issues are because I'm just avoiding them so long,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm scapegoating through cigarettes and stuff like that.
You
So
just
for
don't
me,
want to address it at that point. It's like you want to escape from it. You don't want to address it, and I'm right there with you. Like I do the exact same things. Like sometimes things can be going too good for me, and sometimes when things are going, you know, I guess too well, I start to get apprehensive. Like I start to kind of like it's like I'm waiting for the floor to fall out from underneath me. So when things are going too good, I'm kind of anticipating that they're going to kind of go left. So then, so I guess I'll generalize it with people. Like sometimes I could feel like myself getting too close to somebody, and when I start to feel that, I'll get apprehensive and I guess a little anxiety because I'm like, well, dang, I don't. What if this person does this to me, or if they leave, or whatever, whatever, and they take that feeling. So then I start to get scared. So then I kind of distance myself and I disconnect. Or sometimes I'll be real nitpicky, or I'll be like, oh well, you're doing this or you're doing that, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. Not that I don't like those things. They're probably doing something I don't like, but I'm more so highlighting it to kind of justify a means of like, okay, well, you're doing this, and I don't like that, and then after doing those things after I kind of like destroy, like I begin to destroy the relationship, then I kind of fall into like this depressive mode. And then, one of my biggest vices is alcohol, like I said, like, so sometimes and I've never been a big alcohol drinker. Like when I turned 18, I think I bought a bottle of Hypnotic. And that was like my, oh no, 21, I'm sorry, I said 18. But, Hypnotic was my thing. And like,
I want to jump in there because that's actually funny for me because
the Hypnotic
no,
situation.
I just remember there being a time because I was heavy into alcohol until I got alcohol poisoning long time ago. When I think what changed for me is when I ended up getting alcohol the poison one night, and then at that same night my mom needed the car to take Crystal to the hospital because she had a problem with a tumor or something.
Yeah.
And I had the car, and I was drunk and this and so, and I think after that is when I stopped drinking as much. And I remember that you weren't into drinking.
No.
So this was one of those reasons. Like when you say that, I always think back to that. I remember I used to be kind of into drinking, but I remember you really didn't care about drinking that much. So it was kind of interesting when you share that.
I've never been into it.
Like getting into it. Like I know you've said it a couple times, but I've never really.
The reality.
I've never actually asked you about it because I was like, it was kind of weird. Like, and I feel like we could talk about it now, but I remember being into alcohol. You hated it, and now it's funny that you find this as a form of bad, destructive behavior when at first you weren't about it at all.
And I never honestly I had a strong disdain. I couldn't stand drinking because of like the effect that I saw. Obviously, our mom drank, and like I had to live through the effects of like what it did to her. And I won't go into too much detail, about all those experiences. But like I have always had this strong dislike for alcohol. Even when I was like in my relationship, I was like, hey, I'm not drinking. She's like, oh, drink with me. I'm like, I hate drinking. I'm not gonna do it because that's what it reminded me of my mom. And I mean, like I said, there was probably a low point that I hit about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I still remember like I just went to the liquor store and I was just like, she's like, well, what are you looking for? I was like, I just whatever's cheap. So I bought like 3 different bottles of like some vodka, like some Hypnotic, just 3 random bottles, and then I went home and I drank those bottles that same night. Like not all of them, but I drank to the point where like I just went, no, I ain't feel nothing, and I was just like, and I kind of got used to that feeling, and I was like kind of getting into that, and I was like, man, this is kind of nice. Like I can be dealing with stress, but when I drink this, like it kind of like takes all that away. I don't have to worry about nothing. It's just like obviously the problem was still there the next day, and I feel like shit. But I was, at that moment, I was cool, and that's kind of that. Not to say that I'm just like this raging alcoholic, but like that's kind of what I fell back into. So that was my destructive behavior. Like that's something that I know that I do that I shouldn't do, and I'm not. I've done things while I was drinking that I'm not proud of, but I understand that about myself, and I try to avoid doing that whenever possible. But I at the time when I was going through what I was going through,
Yeah.
it took those feelings away. So just having anything that gave me relief from what I was dealing with, I gravitated toward that. And even still now, like I'm not like this alcoholic, like I said, but like there are just times where like I may be going through something, or I may be in just one of my moods where I'm just like feeling sad for no dang reason, and sometimes I will, get back to the bottle a little bit, but at least now I can kind of do it in moderation because I understand that about myself that like this is the thing that I will gravitate towards when things are getting kind of heavy for me. I don't want it to become a crutch to where it's like I'm dependent on it now. Like anytime like I'm going through any type of stress, I'm gonna go to the bottle. But there's still those times, like I don't want to make it seem like I'm perfect, because there are still times where like I may have just experienced something pretty significant, and I'm just not having a good time coping with it, and I'll just go ahead and have a couple of drinks, and to the point where I just I'm feeling good, and I'm just like I'll worry about this tomorrow.
And one thing I do want to say to the audience, for anybody out there, just remember that the things that we're talking about are things that we're working on internally, but always remember that if you are at an extreme on this, always try to seek help, because like what you're saying, like you fall into drinking, but I don't even have to ask, but I already know you're not doing this around like Jaco. You don't have Jaco. You have a pre-planned set of time. So like you will fall into a destructive behavior, but you're not like, hey, Jaco's here, and you're drinking away, and then you're yelling or maybe being abusive.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, you know what? I'm alone. Jaco's at Granny's, or he's with his mom, and this is the time I can have to engage in self-destructive behavior. But always remember, if you're engaging in self-destructive behavior at the detriment of other lives, where say kids, or maybe you have a significant other, girlfriend or spouse, always try to seek help. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, like let me make that distinction very clear.
Because what we're talking about is,
I don't want anybody to think that I'm just doing whatever. I'll have destructive behavior when it's appropriate, like when my son is gone, when I'm by myself, when I'm the only person I'm not drinking and driving. I'll be at home. If I'm not leaving, then I'll do those things. If you got other plans, if you got kids, if you got people depending on you, you need to really think about it before you get into that type of stuff, because you don't want to be too far down the spectrum deciding like, oh, I'm going to destroy myself right now, but you still have kids in the house. Like, don't do those things. Like, always try to be as smart as you can when you're doing something. If you're going to do something dumb, do it smart. Like, that's the best. Like, you can go do something stupid, but do it in a smart way, if that makes any type of sense. Like, you feel what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah, like I didn't want to sidetrack off too much, but I just thought it was important to so people understand that when we're talking about these things, these aren't things that necessarily we're doing at the expense of
I'm not
the
at
safety
work,
or work, or the safety of our children. So I just wanted to cut that off and interject that. So just for clarification, so not to throw the whole topic out, but just for clarification that these are the things that we're talking about in controlled environments, those destructive behaviors. You don't want people to get the wrong idea.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not at work throwing the bottle back. Like, I got shit to do. So, but yeah, I'm glad that you brought up that distinction. I guess after having talked about that for a little bit, I think it's apropos to kind of go into kind of like the remedy for that. Like, I think one of the more important things about destructive behavior and the understanding of it is understanding how you come to that place where you feel like you need to do those things. And for me, I can always feel like myself kind of drifting into like one of my moods or one of my modes or whatever you want to call it. I can kind of feel it. Like, I can feel it before it comes on. It's kind of like, man, I don't know. Like, I'm not feeling myself today. And then like I didn't have a good workout at the gym, and like I'm missing Jaco, like, and then I kind of get into like, and then I start to look at different things that don't make any type of damn sense. Like, man, I'm alone right now. I wish I had somebody here. Knowing good and well, if I really wanted to, I could call like a friend. I can call somebody to come be with me. But sometimes I just feel like I'm alone, and sometimes I just don't feel like I have anybody, which is false, because I have people that will be there for me if I need them, and but at least understanding your triggers and kind of like the process that you take to kind of get to that destructive behavior before you get there, I think that's extremely important, because you never want to be in a place. It's like waking up somewhere and you don't know how you got there. You just woke up in a room and you're like, well, where am I? How did I get? Like, you always want to at least know how you got to where you're going to be. That way you can kind of deal with it, and I think that's one of the more important things.
And I think that for me, as far as finding a solution, I think what I have been doing is trying to let the kids go more. So I've, like a lot of times my daughter doesn't want to go with her mom, and she's like, I want to stay here. And at first I was like, okay, you can stay. And then my son will leave, and then Jaden will be here. And I felt like that was bad for me. So I usually tend to make her go now, because, like I said, my problem is going internal, and having the kids gone is an important aspect. Like, I want the kids to be here, but having them gone on the weekends every now and then with their mom is good for me, because I can now talk to myself, because this is when I go internal, what I mean is, like, I'm inside of myself when I want to scream, but I can't scream, and I can't talk about certain things because the kids are here, and they're gonna hear me, or they'll ask questions, and there's things I don't want them to be concerned with. So I internalize everything. Inside, I'm screaming, I want to yell, and I can't. So it's like I'm stressed out. So I'll go smoke. I won't sleep. I'll stay when the kids go to bed. I'm up stressing over stuff, because now I can actually have a little emotion, because the kids aren't there looking at me. They're in the bed sleeping, and so having them gone allows me to have that free space where I'm alone, and I can talk to myself out loud. Hey man, we need to work on this. This is how I feel. I can express myself, so I don't have to engage in those other behaviors. Whereas when the kids are here and I have to maintain a visible presence of strength, and like that visible picture of strength, I have to internalize everything. And when I do that too much, when like there'll be times when the kids will be here for 2-3 weeks at a time, and that's a lot of pent up internalized, and then, like, again, it has to go somewhere, which ends up channeling into smoking or not sleeping, and these destructive behaviors that are physically being destructive to my body. But I can't internally say anything, because I can't be at home when the kids are here playing and just scream and yell, because they're like, Dad, what's wrong? You're freaking me out right now. So I think for me personally, as far as my solution, is letting my children go more, so that I have that time to I can have a healthy release, so that I am not totally dependent on, like, the destructive behavior of not sleeping and cigarettes. For me personally,
And I think that's a super important. I'm glad you brought that up. So taking time for yourself is super important, because and people who have kids, they'll understand this. When you're a parent and you have children, it's like you're always a parent 24/7. When your kids aren't there, you get some type of semblance of what it feels like to not have responsibilities, like, to some extent. Not that you don't have to pay the rent or you don't have to do nothing. Like, but you still have a sense of, like, man, I don't have somebody right here on my tail. Like, I'm hungry. Can we do this? Can we do that? So when you have children and you get a little bit of free personal time, like, it really makes all the world a difference. And there was a time where I didn't have any of that, and I didn't want any of it, because I wanted all my waking moments to be with my son. I always wanted to be with him. Like, when he was not there, I didn't feel whole. I didn't feel good. So I had to kind of work myself up to being without him for a little bit, to allow myself a little bit of time, like free time to do the things that I wanted to do, to have like some, some GFT, some grown folk time, because you spend too much time around kids and like I'm starting to talk like bubble guppies, or like I haven't had adult conversation in a long time because I'm so used to conversing with a child, and like I'm over here eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and I'm like, man, I need food, and it's like I didn't have that break or that release to kind of like be able to like disconnect or decompress a little bit. So it's easy for a bunch of stuff to get kind of pent up, and like a lot of raw emotion to kind of come out. And I had a little bit of time in the gym, but it's different when they're with you all the time. So I think that's an extremely important thing, because you just need that time to be able to, like, just like you said, talk to yourself, and answer yourself, talk to yourself, kind of go through those emotions that you would normally go through that you just can't do while they're there. Because sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm mad, or sometimes I'm upset, but I can't release those things when my son is there, because I don't want him to think that this is acceptable, like this is the way that you deal with these things. So I'm like, when he's not there, now I can be a little bit more, I can say what I want to say out loud, I can say those curse words, I can say those no words, and then I can do what I need to do to kind of like overcome those things.
And so and how it relates to me, how I like to think about it, I think of it as a problem I had after getting out of the military was that heightened sense of awareness.
Yeah.
And I think that like you have to have that in the military. You have to have a heightened sense of awareness all the time. And I remember my counselor telling me, because obviously I have PTSD and stuff like that, and depression, and it's saying the heightened sense of awareness is very unhealthy for you, because it will, like I said, keeps you up. It keeps you from sleeping. Your body will start to kind of like deteriorate. You're hurting yourself because you can't stay like what you would do in a deployment when you want to stay in a heightened sense of awareness.
Because that'll keep you alive in that time.
Yeah, but that's she's like, that's why you develop this. But when you're in when you're back in the States, or when you're in a civilian environment, most people do not live like that in a heightened sense of awareness. But I say that to say this. I remember when my son was playing on the bunk bed, and all I heard was crying. I yelling, and I went to go. He had got his eyelid sliced open on the fan. And I remember in that moment, I walked over, I saw it. Internally, I'm freaking out, and I'm like, this is very bad. He just got his eyelid split open. This is bad. But I have two kids here. I didn't show it at all. I'm like, I just covered his eyes so my daughter didn't look. Okay, here, come on, buddy, let's go look at it. This and this. I covered it up with a little wet paper towel because that's all I could do. And I ended up getting us to the hospital. But the whole time I was calm. Inside I was freaking out. And I think that that is how I live when the kids are here all the time. In the sense of heightened awareness, to where it's like I'm constantly aware of, like, there's all this kind of stuff going on, but I can't show it. I have all these emotions that I'm feeling, but I can't show it. I have these stresses going on in life, but I can't show it. I have these fears, but I can't show it. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that I am now bottling up. And it is that when we talk about self-destruction, think about you are holding that bomb in your hand, and you're just adding fuel.
Literally,
you're literally holding the bomb, and you just keep on adding more fuel to it. It's like, okay, and the bomb just gets bigger and bigger, and eventually it has to go off. It has to, and you just let it explode. Versus just, hey, it's that self-destruction. Like, so having that ability for me to vent, I think, is important. And I think that for you, it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like the same, where you have those times where you like to decompress, and you are thinking of more positive ways instead of drinking to spend those times as well.
And I feel like I need that. I need to. I'm in the process of taking my destructive behaviors and turning them into productive behaviors. So if I feel myself kind of going into one of my moods, I try to identify it And sometimes I don't always get that understanding of how I got there. Sometimes I'm like, I feel myself going down this road. I don't want to go down this road. So then I'll decide to go to the gym. Even if I had been earlier in the day, even if my workout didn't go good, I just try to get out of the house because I have alcohol at the house. Like I have I have everything I need at home.
Enabling everything.
So I have everything I need. So I get away from it. I'm like, well, my workout wasn't that great today. I'm gonna go back to the gym and I'm gonna try to focus and do it all over again. And most of the time that'll work. Like most of the time that just getting out the house, like just the hassle, like going all the way to the gym and driving all the way there. By the time I get there, I'm just like, hell, it was a long drive, man. Like I gotta do something now. I done used half a tank of gas. I spent 30 minutes to get here. Like now I feel like I need to get this workout in. And most of the time it goes favorably for me. Like I end up getting a pretty good workout. And you know, by the time I get home, I'm so tired. I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and go to sleep. But it's important for me to try to take something that was going to be bad and do something productive to make it a good thing. And I'm not trying to say that drinking alcohol is this horrible thing. It can be if you don't do it in moderation.
Yeah.
You know, you need to obviously do this in moderation. You know, try not to use it so much as like a crutch and like depend on it for everything that you're doing in life. But at the same time, I can't speak too much on that because that's the way I treat the gym. Like the gym is like my safe place. That's my anchor. And if alcohol is your anchor, I have to implore you to get a different one because, that, like I said, it's just not a good practice to have. But if you're dealing with this type of stuff, you know, if you have a self-destructive behavior, like something that you're dealing with, you have to try to find a way to take that and turn it into something productive, whether it be making music, lifting weights, you know, drawing, playing video games. Like, take that destructive behavior and make it into something that you can actually get production out of. And it could be anything. I don't know. Like, I do the gym, but, like, for you, it could be drawing. It could be whatever. But I think it's important to have that thing in your back pocket that's like your go-to. Like, hey, when I want to do this, I know that this is not good for me. Let me supplement that with this. It gives me not the exact same feeling, but at least gives me a feeling of, like, I'm in power, I'm in control,
Yeah.
like I'm in control of this, and I can kind of dictate how this is going to go.
Exactly. So I think it's good, like especially me, like when the kids are gone, like that's the time I can talk to myself and release that, and then I can actually get on and I'll listen to music.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times I'll do that. Like a lot of times, like people are like, oh, when the kids are gone, you like to sit there and play the games. Like I'll tell them, like I literally. I will literally sit here and I will listen to music and lay down and that's when I talk to myself and think and I zone out and this is the time I can be productive in thinking like about solutions. Kids are wilding out there. You gotta give it to them.
Yeah.
But this is the time I can think because a lot of times my brain is kind of muddled through the week because I have so much going on that I can't actually think and process. So I take that time to positively process, okay, what are my issues? What's going on? Now, how do I find a solution?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I'll go internal and I'll avoid, and I'll compress feelings and avoid things. And during the times I have by myself, I can openly talk, express them, and then try to find solutions and think about how I'm going to solve problems. And this is when I let it out. How do I solve instead of forget about it, compress it, and wait for it to explode?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing for me, and I'm glad we had a chance to kind of discuss like some of our issues and some of the things that we do to solve them. And like I said, I think this is a good point. We go ahead and end it before the kids blow up the house. They starting to get antsy.
So I love my niece and nephew, but they're hilarious. Like they'll be quiet for like most of the show, and then like here towards the end, once we're wrapping everything up, like you'll hear like little man in the back, like he running back and forth. He breathing hard. He doing that kid cough.
Well, you can
Man, what are you doing back there, man?
You can tell when the kids are like, hey, we gave you a little time, but like, hey, okay, it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Which it's actually at that time. So I think they have an internal clock when they know like
they've been doing this too long. Let me start making a bunch of noise. It's like it's funny because like he does the stereotypical kid things.
Where it's like you told me to be quiet. I'm just gonna I'm gonna let you know that I'm ready for you to like
to finish what you're
doing without telling you.
But for me, it was the kid cough. Like he just like. It's like, man, what the hell wrong with you, man? You ain't been coughing this whole day. All of a sudden, now he like.
Well, really, it is. It's 11:20. It's 11:25. So in reality, it's like it's lunchtime.
Yeah, like,
I just want you to know that.
You just had cereal? I don't care. It's internal clock. I'm internalizing too. I'm going internal with this food.
It's lunch. Like there's like 11:30 is lunchtime, and they're like, you haven't even started cooking yet, Dad. So we know that. So that's what they're trying to say. But again, we'll see y'all next week. We got a good little topic already planned.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, sorry about last week, but hey, I'll try to do better, and like we'll try to do a little bit more to try to make sure that we don't. Oh, say there you go, that kid call.
Life happens again.
Yeah, but hey, hopefully you guys tune in next week, and we'll talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in with us today. Hopefully we were able to give you something you can use and take forward into your day. If you want to reach out to us with any questions, comments, concerns, or even topic requests, links are in the description. Join us back here again next week in the MadHouse. We appreciate you and where you are in your journey in life, and always remember,